Before I start, I just want to say a couple of things. The first is that this does not purport to be the final word on the matter. It's not a comprehensive piece of research. It doesn't carry out a full survey or scan of ICT interventions. It's just a thought piece. It's a conversation starter. It's something to get the dialogue going. As Pat said, at the end of the day, you'll receive a DVD that will have it on, and it'll also have on it all of the research reports that write up the interviews that were carried out by Bridge. The research report itself will also be given to you online by means of a link, and you will be given the opportunity to add to it. So we see it as an organic, changing, developing thing. So this is just the start, and I'm going to tell you about some of the general themes that we saw that emerged out of the interviews that were carried out. Before I get there, though, I want to tell you about the premises that we started with. First of all, we knew that there was a lot of activity happening in ICTs and basic education, but we thought probably the signs were there that a lot was taking place in silos, and more importantly, outside of the strategic framework of the DBE. And we felt that there was probably a need to pull together all the different initiatives, to collaborate, to share knowledge, to show common purpose in support of what the DBE is doing, in support of their national strategy and their implementation plan. And as Nelly said to you, we thought maybe a community of practice would be a good way to go to maximize resources and reduce duplication and share what works in education. In terms of our approach, we interviewed 24 people, a range of stakeholders from a range of different groupings. So we interviewed people in government, both national and provincial. We interviewed researchers, funders, innovators, people from corporates, civil society, service providers, and so on. And each of the stakeholders was interviewed, and as I said, on the DVD, there are all of the reports, all 24 reports written up, as well as a kind of comprehensive overview which extracts the themes and to which we invite you to contribute. So, as to the themes. The first theme that we saw emerging was a theme that looked at the issue of DBE strategy, and I think we've already heard a little bit about this in the room today. And first of all, what was very clearly evident is that there are two competing views on policy and its implementation in South Africa. The one is the view that the DBE has articulated a very clear strategy, and there's its action plan for 2014 and its white paper and so on. And then the other view is that it hasn't set a clear direction at all, and that ICTs are not on the agenda in a meaningful way, and that there's fragmented and uncoordinated practice out there that's not being led centrally. So that's potentially something for us to discuss today, is that tension between those two competing views. Strongly felt by interviewees was that there's need for an implementation plan that will help us streamline our efforts and align our efforts. And I think also felt by many participants in the study is that the budget is insufficient, both nationally and provincially. So that's the first theme that emerged. The second one was a theme that looked at the issue of the wider system. Some participants said the wider system is broken and there's absolutely no point doing anything in it until it's fixed. Some said we need to rethink education. We're living in such a radically different world now. Technology has changed the terrain in which we operate, and we need to adapt to those new technologies first. Rethink what we do with education. Others said that education needs to be integrated with technology, that there needs to be intensified political will, that we need to stop political interference and short-term pressure about numbers and results, and that an overall paradigm shift is required, that we must stop old world thinking, because until we do, we're not going to get the change that we want. The third theme had to do with inconsistencies amongst the provinces. So first of all, it was felt that there was a disconnect, that there is a disconnect between what's happening nationally with national decision making and what's happening in the various provinces, but also that there is a varying situation among the different provinces. Two of the interviews were carried out with representatives of two of the different provinces, and you'll see strikingly different anecdotes about the situations in their daily lives, in their jobs. Participants felt that guidelines are needed for the implementation of technology in the provinces, and that until we have some evenness of approach, we can't scale up. So overall, the articulated feeling was that we need to clearly define the roles of national and provincial much better. The fourth theme was that there are key enablers that have to be in place in schools, and without those, ICT interventions will not work. So, inter alia, adequate infrastructure, non-academic learner support, a functional school environment, a safe school environment, ongoing support for hardware, software, and training, as well as competent technical people. Importantly, the interviewees felt that champions are needed in the schools, and that teachers and principals are the key enablers who make the difference between something working and something failing. As a result, they need to be capacitated accordingly. So let's talk about teachers first. The interviewees felt that teachers play a vital enabling role in ICTs in education, but the role of the teacher needs to be defined. It was felt that the role of the teacher is no longer primarily about accessing and sharing content, but helping learners understand content and interacting with it. So that's one of the sort of striking themes that I think emerged, is that there's something very different going on in our modern world with content, and teachers need to be equipped accordingly. So teachers must be supported, they must be shown how to do it and what to do. Their attitude, importantly, needs to be transformed. I think a lot of interviewees felt that teachers are showing signs of being digital immigrants, people who are not comfortable with technology and not sure how to use it. And that can be done by teacher support, pre-service education, and those things need review as a result. Interviewees also felt that a culture of rewarding teachers is needed. Teachers are paid too little, teachers don't get much in the way of congratulations, and so a culture of reward could be brought in. And also, importantly, they need to be relieved of the onerous administration that is part of rolling out technology initiatives in the classroom. Their core mandate is facilitating learning, not making sure that computers work. The sixth theme is that technology requires strong leaders in the schools who will champion and support interventions at many different levels. So ICT interventions, it was felt, cannot be sustained without the support of principals. Principals are the key champions. However, many interviewees said that principals don't know the key goals of ICT implementation nationally or provincially. And they also don't tend to prioritize spending on ICT assets either at all or very wisely. So that needs to be addressed. A seventh theme that emerged is that technology should be integrated with the curriculum. Again, the point was made that providing content is not the challenge. People have got devices, people have got access to information. The challenge is reviewing and adjusting the curriculum. And so redefining learning outcomes and what is required of the learner in relation to curriculum and in relation to his or her daily experience in the classroom. Learners need guidance to cope with the sheer wealth of content available. I think we like to think that because learners are young and they're digital natives, that they know what to do. But in fact, interviewees felt that they don't really know what to do with the content that's available to them. It was also felt that technology is not just a tool that serves the curriculum. It allows for a second sight of learning, and it must be treated very seriously and integrated very fully as a result. So there needs to be an overall methodological integration of pedagogies and ICTs. The eighth theme that emerged is that the pressure to go to scale can be counterproductive. And interviewees toyed with this. What does it mean to go to scale, and how should one go to scale? And should we look at alternative models of scale? So for example, should we focus on partnerships, on getting from innovation to diffusion? Or should we be looking at scale itself? I think there was a tension between the short-term view on numbers and the longer-term view on outcomes and impact that many interviewees felt. And I think in general, interviewees felt that scalability is driven by funders or financial backers or government. And that often skews what we're trying to do as innovators. The DBE made the comment that their action plan to 2014 gives clear milestones for e-education and future targets for ICT access in schools. So that's another point for debate today. Is that clear enough for innovators? The ninth theme focused on sustainability. And the indications are, according to these interviewees, that sustainability requires partners, local communities, and monitoring and evaluation. So first of all, there were two competing views of sustainability. The one is that the private sector has a role to play in ensuring sustainability and that government can't do it alone. But the second view that emerged of sustainability is that the DBE should take full responsibility for sustainability, be that financial, technical, or operational. So there's another tension to debate today. I think there's a concern that the DBE doesn't have the right systems and structures in place for sustainability, and that we need scalable models which enhance school and government capacity for technical, pedagogical, and professional development. Some interviewees felt that sustainability should be driven through community buy-in and ownership at a local level and at various levels. That local communities should be benefiting from investments in ICTs and that local economic development is key. And finally, I think that there was a feeling that there's not enough M&E that's done in this world and in this world of ICTs in education, and that it's absolutely essential for sustainability and long-term viability. And that's something that we need to address. But it's not just sustainability at those levels that interviews felt was important. They also said that sustainability needs to be ensured at the school level. So it needs to be vested in the leadership of the school taking ownership of the ICT environment. It can't be about external parties coming in and taking control. It's about hands-on, committed and active leadership in relation to ICT interventions. Service and maintenance support are necessary. There should be a focus on empowering school teams, not just individuals. Interoperability should be ensured, as well as ease of integration. There should be a monitoring of usage statistics, a profiling of users, and that importantly, donors, funders, benefactors should understand that an investment in a school should be a minimum of 3 to 5 years. It is not a quick fix. Finally, it's an imperative, it was felt, that we keep up to date with changes in technology, which of course is easier said than done. The 11th theme looked at the issue of connectivity. It's already been said in the room today. And again, there was a competing view here amongst the respondents. Some people said that connectivity is in a dire state and it's impeding our progress. Others said it's not the issue. It really is not the thing that we should be focusing on. The regulatory environment is changing, access is improving on a monthly basis, and very soon we won't have the connectivity issues. So again, that's something to discuss. But in terms of general comments, it was felt that connectivity should engage a range of government role players, including the Departments of Communications and Health, as well as CoZa. Some people felt that without proper connectivity, the school computer labs are doomed. Some people felt that connectivity is unreliable and expensive. Some people felt that the E-rate doesn't really help. There were many concerns about the distinction between rural and urban access. But as I said, generally there was an acknowledgement that costs are dropping and the regulatory environment is shifting. And finally, I think many people felt that it's the mobile device that's changing the landscape. Connectivity is not going to be an issue for much longer because of the ubiquitousness of mobile technology. So that's the 12th theme, the theme of mobile technology, and the idea that emerged here is that mobile phones have a vital role to play in education. Mobile provision has the ability to leapfrog any blockages that currently exist. It's gaining momentum. Mobile phones are learning platforms and are used as such. Social media can be used as a very powerful tool in learning. But the challenge for mobile is getting teachers to use mobile with comfort and confidence. The other comment that was made is that mobile technologies are helpful not only for the teaching of content, but also for rapid and immediate diagnostic testing, and so that there could be a much more thorough use of that going forward. And then finally the point was made that mobile projects tend to be self-organizing and organic. So they often fall out of the mainstream of projects in education. As a result, they're not monitored and evaluated in the same way, they're not knowledge managed in the same way and reported on in the same way, and so that's something that needs to change. The 13th theme had to do with content, and generally interviewees said that platforms and ways of licensing content are not the issue. So they were generally platform agnostic. They didn't really mind what the device was. They just felt that it's important to be able to access content and make sense of content. There was a general call for overlapping and interoperable platforms amongst respondents. A general support was shown of open source software and open content, even amongst interviewees who work for corporates and so on. The issue, it was felt, is not how to access content. The issue is how to reorganize content in such a way that people have access to what is good. There is, as we all know, a flood of free online content now with numbers outstripping demand. And so it's how to make sense of that and how to know what to do with that content that's important. And finally, on the subject of platforms and content, it was felt by respondents that the Tutong portal could be a more effective repository of content. And the last of the themes is focuses on the digital divide and the issue that causes for us in South African education, because there's such a serious disparity of learning achievement by socioeconomic status and geography. And the digital divide, it was felt, is about the divide between the haves and the have-nots, between private and public schools, between ex-Model C schools and other public schools, and between learners and the adults in their lives, teachers, principals, SGBs, and parents, and that we need to address all of those divides. But it was pointed out to us that the digital divide is also an opportunity for providers, and that we need to find solutions to different and challenging contexts. And again, it was widely felt that mobile provision could bridge the various divides very effectively. So, general comments after those 14 themes that we've drawn out for you. One comment that seemed to emerge again and again is that we're in a very innovation-rich environment. As always is the case in South Africa, there's no shortage of brilliance and innovation. But perhaps the problem is it's too innovation-rich, and that might be the impeding factor. The point was also made that the landscape changes so quickly in ICTs in education, and it's very hard to keep up with what's happening with devices and trends. So the call was to adhere to broad principles rather than to look for particular devices or types of software. As I said earlier, it was felt that there's a dearth of M&E initiatives in this part of the sector. It was also felt by many that there are such vested interests and commercial imperatives here that muddy this space, and that we need to find a way of teasing that out. It was felt that change management and knowledge management are absolutely vital, that we need to acknowledge our failures and learn from them. Amongst the respondents, I think there was a general commitment to the idea of a community of practice. They'd like us to look at things like how to revise the curriculum, how to engage around policy implementation, and we have the first opportunity for that today, how to establish new processes and a new discourse, how to get communities to engage both nationally and provincially. And finally, there was the point made that we need a stakeholder map. We need to know who's doing what, where. So that's everything from my side by way of a general introduction to the themes of the report. But you'll have time to engage with it today, you'll have time to engage with the DVD once you've left here, and we'll be asking you to contribute to the research. Thank you very much.